गर्न चाहन्छौँ हामी आयोजक संस्था नेपाल फिल्म एन्ड कल्चरल एकाडेमीको तर्फबाट। र आज एउटा विशेष हाम्रो सेसन यहाँ सञ्चालन हुन गइरहेको छ। यस सेसनको मोडरेट गर्दै हुनुहुन्छ हाम्रो आदरणीय दाइ निर्देशक दीपेन्द्र गौचन। उहाँ चाहिँ फिल्म मेकर हुनुहुन्छ र म स्वागत गर्न चाहन्छु यस सेसनमा वक्ताको रूपमा डाक्टर रीता दत्ता, प्रोफेसर, फिल्म क्रिटिक एन्ड एडिटर। त्यसै गरी प्रोफेसर जियान, उहाँ चाहिँ स्क्रिन राइटर हुनुहुन्छ र डाइरेक्टर पनि हुनुहुन्छ। मिनबहादुर भाम, उहाँ डाइरेक्टर प्रड्युसर हुनुहुन्छ। त्यसै गरी विनोद पौडेलज्यू, उहाँ चाहिँ फिल्म डिरेक्टर र राइटर पनि हुनुहुन्छ। र धेरै समय विलम्ब नगरिकन म अगाडिको सेसन सञ्चालन गर्नको लागि आदरणीय दीपेन्द्र गौचन सरलाई हार्दिक अनुरोध गर्दछु।
Right, testing. Very dhanyabad, Shiva. Welcome to this session on co-production, and I think we've put together an amazing panel of distinguished and eminent personalities here. So, Dr. Rita Dutt, she's from India. She's an editor, she's a professor, and she's been a juror on many, many international film festivals, and we're so happy to have her here with us today, where she's the head juror of the feature film section for both the international and the national in NIF 2025. Very welcome. We have Professor Jiayin. Did I say that correctly? Yeah. She's also a professor at the Beijing Film Academy. She has also made films which have been featured in Cannes and major film festivals all over the world. A very warm welcome. Thank you. And then we have our Nepalese counterparts here. We have Minbadur Bham. I think he needs no introduction. But still, to tell something about his capabilities, his recent film, Shambhala, was the entry to the Oscars for this year. His previous film was also the entry to the Oscars. So I think the two counterparts here are the ones whose films have been most watched by a foreign audience, right? So there's Binod there, who's made Bulbul, which was also the entry to the Oscars in 2019. And he's recently made a film called Bhutan, which is going to be screened soon now in April, right? But that film was entirely shot in America with a Nepalese cast and a mixed cast. And now he's in the process of doing the activation for the audience to try and get the audience to come to see the film in Nepal. But I'm so certain that this film will travel all over the world. So these are our very, very international great filmmakers from Nepal here. So now, today the topic is co-production. I think it's a very important topic for today because in the entire history of cinema, I think we're at the lowest point at this moment in time for several reasons. With the advent of other forms of entertainment that are available so easily at home and in the palm of your hand in the form of a mobile phone, with reels and TikTok and all the other distractions, cinema going, as in going to a theater to enjoy a piece of work of art by an auteur or a whole team of people who put together something that is quite special and distinguished. People have lost that allure of going to the theater. They'd rather watch it at home and in an easy format that they can consume. So, having said that, I think as with every development, technological development, everybody thought that radio would be dead after television came, and everybody thought that cinema would be dead after all these OTT platforms. No, it's still surviving. The question is, to make it thrive, how can co-production play a part in that? Right? So normally what happens is we are used to the normal film production process is people from a certain country get together with a team of people of their own kind. They write stories about their own place and people, raise the money within the country, locally. The entire process is done locally. And then when the film is made, it's screened at the local cinemas and hopefully for an international crowd somehow. But now, that seems to be one way of doing things, but now the thing is, the global frontiers have opened up, and I'm really keen and excited to see how the possibilities would stand for people here in Asia. We have China, India, and Nepal, and we'd keep the discussion quite particular to our region. And so to begin, I think we can start very simply by defining what is co-production. So I'd just like to ask Dr. Rwita that, just to define that for us.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy that you are here for this discussion. This is a very relevant and contemporary topic in terms of filmmaking, and also as a film critic and participant in the film festivals everywhere. Co-production is going big these days. Co-production usually happens, it is associated, I will be talking in terms of India a little bit. So, will we come back again? Yes, of course. Okay. So what happens, it is the co-production, the term is usually associated with independent filmmaking, the art house, mostly for art house cinema. In India, as you know, that commercial filmmaking is a big thing. They really don't look for co-production, okay? Because they don't need it, because they have enough source of money to produce their own films. It usually started happening from the 90s onwards. We came to know about this coinage called co-production in terms of independent filmmaking. What happened, if you have a global story, local story with a global story and with a universal theme, with a local content, you usually look for producers out of your country. Because in India and in other parts of Asia, I believe that independent filmmaking is a very, very big struggling event, because I have seen my friends who are making art house cinema, it's becoming very difficult for them to finance their kind of film, because their film do not have a star. Okay, they have a strong narrative, they have strong content, they know the filmmaking technique quite a lot, but they don't have the money. So they look for other areas where the developing countries are there, and there are different kind of lab happening, film financing lab. Torino has a lab, Asian Film Fund in Bhushan is a big thing. So everywhere they are having this film market where you can submit your project and look for co-production. In India also, the IFFI, the biggest festival sponsored by central government, they have a film market called NFDC Film Bazaar, where you can present your project and look for co-production. So it's happening, and India has been quite successful in having co-production. That I will tell later, which are the films, which are the way they have gone, because I also want to know how Shambhala made it so big and its own journey. I think that the stories will be similar. So that's it.
Absolutely, thank you so much. So that defines co-production. Co-production basically means you have people from different countries or different entities who all come together and work together to produce a particular film. And the film could be made anywhere. It depends on the origin of the film, of which country that has been, which producer or which director has originated the film and has taken it to the markets to find other collaborators to make that film. But as Dr. Dutta said, those films only work if they have a more global or universal appeal, right? So having said that, if you go to Bham, who's the expert on that subject with his work, I think you could just continue with Rwita's questions, saying, how did you do that with Shambhala?
Thank you so much. Namaste, everyone. Actually, for me, going for co-production is not only about finding money. It's also related to aesthetic things that is really required, especially for the young filmmakers. Nowadays, especially in South Asia, we're going through all these co-productions, markets, labs, and hubs, not just only to find money, because it's a platform where you meet all the passionate people. They're also looking for the projects. Actually, I have seen many producers, especially from the European and American territory, who are very much looking for the projects, especially from the Asian region. because they also want to discover new talents, and also at the same time they also want to find the directors with whom they could collaborate. So basically, co-production simply means getting somebody on board who can be the creative producers, who can bring money. Usually the money comes from the European regions, is public fund. Especially in the case of Samala, there was lots of producers, especially from the Norway, France, Turkey, America, Qatar, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. So most of the producers, they brought money on the project, and it was public fund from their respective countries, except the producer from Hong Kong, who had to invest her own money from her pocket. So for me, having co-production is also about using the talents from their country. For instance, when I was doing Samala, I never imagined to work with the Asian legendary editor called Gauchan, who used to edit all those films made by master Asian filmmakers like Wang Kar-wai, Hao Shushan, Jia. So that was the opportunity for me to work with Gauchan. And there was a sound designer from Taiwan, Dutta, who already did 400 feature films, even more. And it's been more than 50 years for both of those Asian masters. And I always had a dream to work with them. So through co-production, that was the opportunity for me to collaborate with them. So this is another part of going through the co-productions. And of course, on top of that, it's all about discovering the new territory in terms of finance, in terms of having talents on board, and in terms of having co-producer who could also support you on this long journey, all the way from the script writing till the festivals, marketing, and theatrical release as well. So in all this sense, for me, going for co-production is really a long journey, but at the same time, it's very hectic. It's very difficult and very, very tough to deal with them. Frankly speaking,
we'll be talking really more about that.
Yeah, it's really not easy. So we'll come on that point later on. Thank you.
All right, so let's end this on a happy note of the good side of co-production, which is whenever we think of co-production, we think of the money first, right? But as Min said, it's not only about the money. Well, the money comes only if you have developed a really interesting project that appeals to people who really want to work with you on the project. The money doesn't just come like that, right? So the key task is not to look for money, it's to look for really good collaborators, right? And then they will bring the money with them when they want to be part of the project. So that's the first challenge. So I think in a Nepalese context, Min and Binod and the people who have been doing this have set a very good example of what's possible. So that's very hopeful. But besides the money, Min said it's also about the talent, the people you get to work with. You expand your worldview, you work with legends. And that, I think, for Nepal, which is, I don't know how to call the Nepalese industry. It's not a budding industry because we make more films than any other country in the world, it seems, in terms of numbers. But in terms of the quality and the exposure, we still have a long way to go. So I think co-production would bring that aspect of knowledge sharing and learning as well, right? Yeah. So, Professor Liu, I just want to ask you, in the Chinese context, how does co-production work there at the moment in China? Yeah.
Really very happy to be here and first time in Nepal. Yeah. My English is not good, so I will speak in Mandarin and my friend translate to English for me. Okay. 其实在国内的话，就是在中国的话，比如说院线。比如说院线电影，就是在电影院正常上映的电影里面呢，合拍片是比较少的，对。
So in China, the collaboration between the mainly inside the country, the collaboration is little bit less.
就是对我们也有合拍片，但是它相对来说是占比比较少的。然后就是我其实最早对于就是合拍片这件事情的理解是在我上中学的时候，就是刚刚在电影的理论的书上接触电影的时候，然后就会发现，很多电影后面它，比如一个电影它后面说是哪个国家出品的，然后它会出现4个甚至5个国家。然后他们通常是欧洲的这些国家，然后所以这个其实是我自己就是作为一个人，然后一个喜欢电影的人，最初在90年代对合拍片的一个了解。
So although the collaboration in the film was very less in China, but there was some films which was done on collaboration. So when our Professor Liu was learning at the beginning stage about this film production, she came to know that there were some films where the collaboration were done between the European parties. And by this, she also became clear that the collaboration can also help a lot in film industry.
然后在现在来说的话，因为我们的就比如说院线片，它基本上资金还是来自于国内。然后，但是在主创团队上，然后在海外发行上，就是这些其实是逐渐走向国际化的。哪？你就重复一下吧。OK。就是现在在主创团队，就是主要创作的成员的构成上和海外发行上是逐渐走向国际化。
So right now there are also some groups which are particularly working about these collaboration projects.
对，然后另外一点其实可能是体现在中国的一些相对来说的低成本的电影上。然后对，所以我特别认同就是刚刚2位嘉宾说的，就是它有一部分是资金，然后还有一部分是 talent。然后就这2个部分其实都很重要，但是我们还有一个词，我们叫资源。就是在汉语里面，我们有一个词叫资源，然后资源它相对来说是一个抽象一点的词，它其实就包含了刚刚2位嘉宾说的，对这2个很重要的元素。
So Professor Liu is also very sure about our 2 leaders' opinion. That is, while making the collaboration in film, what we require is talent and money. But beside this talent and money, what we also in China require is that we require resources. So this resources is also one of the basic need during the collaboration.
对，因为资源它代表的，它可能不仅是资金，资金有的时候它不见得是最重要的部分，它更多的代表一种怎么能够发挥就是不同的地方的人的特长，然后和他们的真正的资源的优势，然后为一个电影的后面的我觉得面向市场或者电影节观众，然后包括它的发行。它的票房对，然后对能起到更好的作用。
So these resources not only include the money, but also the human resources or all kind of resources that is required to attract the audiences.
然后现在因为在大陆的话，就在中国的话，很多年轻人其实在比如说读完本科之后。对，然后大家会去其他的国家，比如美国啊，或者英国啊，或者澳洲啊，就会去其他的国家，继续学电影，学电影的制作创作，然后这样的年轻人在最近，比如说7、8年之内吧，这都是这样的一个趋势。然后他们回到毕业之后回到国内，然后继续在拍片，然后但是他们其实就自带一种。这种多元化的这种属性。
So one of the best point that China is facing is that at the moment there are many young people who after completing their high school they usually go to the foreign countries to learn about the film production, and at the foreign countries they spend some few years and return to the China and start working in the film production area.
对，然后所以他们其实他们不管是在国外的时候，还是回国之后去拍他们的，比如说第一部长片，对their first long fiction film，就拍他们的第一部长片，然后或者是一些成本制作上稍微高一些的这种要去电影节的这种短片的时候，然后他们的主创团队就是一个很多元化的状态，然后他们的资金也很自然的是一个多元化的状态，包括他们的海外发行。
So after the students return from the abroad studies, what they usually do is that they personally invest in some long fiction films and they start their career in this way.
然后相对来说，比如说偏向于文艺片或者独立电影的这样的，它就在目前的状态来说的话，就是多个国家参与制作是相对来说更容易看到的情况。
Now we can also see many of the films produced by the students who have returned from abroad, and there are many kind of such films which were produced by the generation which have just returned from the abroad.
Thank you very much, Professor. Cool. So that covers the kind of the technical background of what co-production is and how it's going. Let's turn to something more aspirational now with Binod as a filmmaker. So there are two types of co-productions, I think. One is that something like Min would do is a very particular story by a Nepali, made in Nepal with Nepali cast and everything. And just because the story itself and the entire kind of theme is so interesting, you have foreign producers who want to collaborate with you to help you make your film, right? That's one type of co-production. The other types are a Nepal, India, China pan co-production where there's a story which involves characters from all three countries and they all come together in some setting, etc., etc. So there's interest because those films would be appealing to the audiences in those countries as well, because they have somebody famous from an actor from each country or something like that, or the story spans of something of special common interest. You made Bhutan in America. I don't know the entire process of how you made it, right? But if that was a co-production, how did you go about it? Two, if it wasn't, what would you look for with your next film? What's the biggest advantage you're looking for by doing a co-production then?
Thank you. Actually, in terms of co-production, I always do have a very different approach. Maybe I don't have that beautiful quality like a mean to find a co-production from foreign countries. But from the beginning, when I made Saguro, it was very indie film. I pursued some filmmakers. They didn't want to invest because they thought it won't work in the market. Then I found I tried to pursue some filmmaker who is very close to me, who knows me well. So my friends, my circle, who really wants to make different in this market. I pursued them and they agreed. So that's how I started my journey as a filmmaker to produce a film. And even the Bulbul was a very indie film. I found investors, and it worked well in the market, fortunately. Saguro didn't do well, but Bulbul was quite well appreciated, and at the same time in the box office it was okay. And even now it's running in some private apps. In terms of Bhutan, so this was my journey. I always find my colleagues who's got the money and try to pursue them. So Bhutan was one of them. I was in the US, so of course there are some business people who's got the money. So whoever got the money, I should pursue them. Okay, this is the movie, and this is very indie, and I want to tell my own story, and I'm this kind of filmmaker. I tell very personal expression. I don't follow market. I don't follow rules, grammar of market. So what do you think? Fortunately, it worked. It worked. It is working so far. I don't know after the release of Bhutan how far I will go, but it is working. Somehow in Bhutan I had some trick. I took one star actor, Harivansh Acharya, so that market knows him well, you know. And I had a confidence that I can convert him in my character. And he did well. And at the same time, I convinced Bruce Dunn from Hollywood. He did Nebraska and got, I think, Oscar nomination once, and also Best Actor in Cannes. So once Bruce was in, some of the investors, they got interested. Okay, I want to put some money. And that's how it worked. So maybe it's because I'm very, entrepreneur. I always carry entrepreneur perspective. I did my MBA and film both. So maybe that was the reason that this path was quite easy for me. It wasn't so easy like I'm, giving this speech now, but but somehow it worked. Yeah, so that was my process.
We're always surrounded by the rich people. That's why. It's so good.
Right. Keep holding the mic minute. The next question will come to you. So very good point that Binod made was that regardless whether it's a co-production or just simply a production, you have to be able to sell your project to potential investors. And that's what he was able to do. And I wish you the best now. I mean, so it's easy when a Nepali approaches another Nepali because they understand the context of the story and everything. But when Min pitches something which is so particularly Nepali up in the Dolpo mountains of a culture and a language that maybe these other foreigners are not really aware of, the question is how do you go about pitching that and making it attractive to them so that they actually come with their money and their resources?
Okay, thank you so much. Actually, it really depends. At the beginning of my career, I used to pitch my project in Deepar, frankly speaking. The first producers outside of Nepal that I work with, I met her in the party. And I was doing cheers with her, and then we just talked for 30 seconds. And then she was asking me, do you have any new project? I said, okay. So I will send it to you. Can I have your email? That was the first conversation that I had. And then when I came back to Nepal, after 6 months, she was frequently asking me for the project, for the script. And that's how actually started in my experience of having collaborations or co-productions. And gradually that turned into different kind of pitching through official platform like, as Dr. Rwita said, there are so many platforms like Markets, Lab, Hub, Residency, where you meet all those producers, people who are also looking for the project. So that was the very beginning phase in my career of having experience of collaboration. And frankly speaking, later on, as being a director, as being a filmmaker, actually you really don't need to pitch yourself, because the time will come when they will come to pitch their idea. They will actually not, it's not only about pitching, they will approach you asking about the new project. And they will, and nowadays, frankly speaking, I always used to say like, okay, what do you bring on table for my project? That is the first question I started talking with the producers. And also it really depends, as my colleague said, if you are working, it's not only about money, of course. For instance, now somehow I am feeling to work with the actor from Hong Kong, Tony Leung. So that definitely required to have the local producer from Hong Kong who can directly be in charge of bring Tony Leon. It's not only about paying his salary. It's also about the system. It's also about to tap in the local market from the region where I will get my actor. And that is also, it's very important. And in my case, actually, it's very interesting. Nowadays, I'm producing more films than I'm directing, especially in the Chinese territory like Taiwan and Hong Kong. So this kind of young filmmakers, young projects that I really like, and somehow I feel like I should produce these films. And these young, talented filmmakers, along with their voices, along with their stories, it should come out in the market. And my job is not only trying to find the money, it's also about to tap in the market for all those talents who could get inside the residency lab, hubs, and of course later on I need to find the collaborators, money, and of course the sales agent, distributors, festivals. The journey is never finished unless you complete your film going through the festivals, market, and then release. So it's so tiring, but at the same time, it's very interesting for me to be a producer. And actually, I don't know, though I don't have lots of rich friends, but I love to bring money. I don't know why. I love this game. But though I'm very bad on numbers, but still I love to bring something on the project. That could be money, collaborations, human resources, market, and anything else.
Thank you. Very cool. It's really, really heartening to hear that a Nepali filmmaker is now aspiring to be or has already become a producer for other filmmakers in other countries. Never imagined that, but it's happening now. Cool. Keep it up. So that brings it now to Dr. Rwita. When you do these co-productions between different countries and you have different producers from all over, there can be huge cultural clashes and differences as well. So one of the big questions about co-production, you have to be careful of what you're getting into. Sometimes I've seen filmmakers who've been offered and they've said, no, I want to keep it pure. I just want to do it my way. Because the more people you have, the more opinions you have. And everybody is trying to do their best to make it the most widely successful project in terms of even the box office. And there are many different opinions on that, right? How do you deal with something like that?
No, I have heard stories from my independent filmmaker friends, but I can tell you, I can give you two examples, two very recent examples where from India, which has been very successful universally. But you know, at the end of the day, I found that these are very Indian film. Like I should tell you, everybody knows about the grand success of The Lunchbox in 2013, where I was in the jury in the Cannes, in the Critics Week, and also in the Directors Fortnight. It played in the Critics Week, and I was in the hall because it is in my competition section, and they got a standing ovation. So I was wondering what actually appealed to the European audience. They're all very French people there, and the Lunchbox appealed them a lot. Though Lunchbox is nothing extraordinary for us Indians, because we have seen much more, better film than this, the independent film. But Lunchbox somehow had a universal appeal. But at the end of the day, it was very Indian also at the core. So I don't think they had any problem in presenting that kind of a universal story. And it has been produced by Match Factory, Arty France Cinema, Marienborg, Berlin, and it was made in a little amount. In India, it is a little amount, 22 crore INR, but it got huge in the box office, even commercially, in India and abroad. And another plus point of co-production is it gives you strategic motivation. You know, you get a sales agent, you get a distributor, and you know which festivals to go for, where you can try to sell it in the film market. These are the other, you know, byproducts of having a good co-production. They can take you places. It was made in 22 crores INR, but it actually got 110 crore at the end of its journey. And very recently, as you all know, that there is another, you know, the film, the Indian film, which got the Grappy Award in Cannes Film Festival. It's called All We Imagine as Light by Payal Kapadia. It was also a co-production between India, France, Netherlands, and Luxembourg. But at the end of, I have given these two examples, but because these are very Indian at heart, both the films. I mean, but they have a universal appeal. Everybody liked the film, therefore it got the Grand Prix, right? So I think that there could be clash of interest, but I think they reach a point where they all agree, so the project takes off, right? Otherwise, the director can withdraw himself or herself whenever they feel like. But what I have seen, you know, watching films in different festivals, only the universal theme wins. Like Sambala, the basic value, it is very universal. I mean, it touches my heart, it touches everybody's heart. Therefore, it's so famous. I mean, it has been. I would like to know from him that how is the audience reaction in Locarno and Berlin? Like Germans understanding Sambala is something I really want to know.
Thank you. Frankly speaking, there was very mixed kind of comments that I received, especially from the European audience. After the screening, I have seen all the audience being so quiet, because in my experience, most of the time, European audience are very reactive. They are very easy to say their opinion right after the screening, but this was the first experience in my life. So after the screening, people were so quiet and just giving me a smile. But that really doesn't mean that they appreciated my film, because for most of the audience, it was very slow and it was very long, but I really don't care. Because let me add something, like I had some producers from the Europe as well. And there was a time when we had to finalize the rough cut when we were doing editing. Actually, before that, I never ever had an experience of giving like torture or feedback, saying this, that. They were so nice on me as a producers. And in my experience, as you said, I know Payal very well. So we were developing the projects, All We Imagine as Light and Samala in the same residency. And I also never heard that she got some kind of pressure from her producers. Actually, it never happens. Of course, if you are weak, if you are really, as a director, if you are so weak, of course, they would love to give you support. And they would love to guide you. But that really doesn't mean that you are under pressure. So, but there was a time when my producers was telling me about the length of the film. It was 2 hours, 32 minutes. And then, of course, my producer was so worried about the slot for the festival, for the television, and for the distributions reason. And luckily, I was the main producer who took the decision. And I said, no, I will not even cut off 5 seconds of the length of my film. Then it was okay, nobody said anything. And they were so happy, and they came to celebrate our world premiere in Berlin, all the way from Norway, France, Turkey, everywhere. And then, of course, they wanted me to shorten the length. And that was very for valid reason. And their intention was very clear. It was not just like, okay, I want my director to listen me. It really doesn't work in that way. So having said that, going for co-productions or having this kind of collaboration really makes you stronger, and that gives you more independency, and that gives you more courage and more confidence, I would say. Because when you are looking for the bigger market, sometimes your co-producers might really give you the universal perspective on your script. Of course, as a scriptwriter, as a director, it's your final call to listen or not to listen. Sometimes if I really don't want to listen my producer, I just ask them to go for wine. And then let's sit.
Good technique.
And then I take that advantage to switch from one topic to another. In general, I have heard these things, especially in Nepal nowadays. Many young filmmakers and some journalists, film critics, they have been asking me these questions like having this funding from these organizations or these or that countries and having so many co-producers on board. Do you really think you are free from what you were imagining as your film, your own film? Of course, I do more comfortable. I feel more relaxed working with all those people because they're here to support me. They're not here to kill me. And of course, they're not here to kill the director's vision. They're also producers. They're also looking for good stories. They're also looking for the idea of making great cinema. That's how it works. Nowadays, I make a fun saying like all in film industry how it works, except America, India, and Nepal, because we are one of the richest country in this context, where we are making film using money from our own pockets. Normally, it never happens except in Bollywood and Hollywood. So in this context, we are so rich, and I don't know how far we could go, because cinema should make by the public money, public fund, no matter from where it comes from, the government support, public supports, or co-productions, funding, grants, this or that. So why don't I take that advantage, having $3 million just to execute my own idea, telling my own story. I'm not manipulated by anybody else from the universe. Actually, they love to support for those kind of projects that are really coming from the bottom of your heart, culturally, aesthetically. And it should be more, you have local stories, more chances to get collaborations, more chances to get money. Then why not? What's wrong getting all those millions money? Because nowadays I'm in the mood of saying like, what's wrong that we always have to struggle making films? Because we have been doing all the compromises, all those things that we always love to do films with very minimum budget. I have to learn this quality ability from Binod, because frankly speaking, sometimes I really love to, it depends. If I have a project that really required to make very, very independently with the very minimum amount of money, in that context, it's okay. So it's the choice of the director and the storytellers. So later on, please tell me how to make it.
Cool.
Less than $100,000.
Cool, Min. Yes. Thanks, Min, for that insight. I mean, there are different types of projects, yeah? People like Min who have made a track record for themselves, they have a name, and then the natural progression of that would be to do bigger and bigger projects, which become a bit more expensive as well. For young startups, they're not looking at big budgets. They're just looking to make their mark with something, again, coming from the heart, but something they can do well, and there should be enough money to do it well. Sometimes the money is not enough, and so they string it together, and you can see the potential of what it could have been, but because of that, it fails. That's a very sad scenario. But given the fact that a young person wants to get into this world, in Min's footsteps, let's say, they really have to be aware of the good side and the pitfalls as well. So I'll just give you an example. So I teach in Cambodia, and I have lots of students who apply for these co-production grants. So recently one of them got it was a co-production grant from the Hong Kong, Busan, and Tokyo film festivals put together. And so with all these different producers, plus added some French producers, she literally said at the end of it, I'll never do this again. And it was because she was too young, and as Min said, did not have the strength to fight back at times. So the point is, you have to develop that within yourself, be very clear and confident of what you want, and when you do that, they will listen to you. Yeah. So that's a lesson learned there. So really good point, Min. Having said that, so you touched upon culture as well. We forget that film is a very, very cultural tool, actually. Yeah. That's how I used to think of film before. I used to watch films from all over the world. I get to know about the world through the films, and not just about locations. It's about humanity, about the people, the stories, the relationships, right? The universality and all of that. So let's bring it back to that. Whenever we do a co-production, culture really comes into play there, right? So my question to Professor Liu is, if we were to make a film that's a co-production between China and Nepal, let's say for now, and we're looking at the cultural aspects of what's the audiences of both countries are looking for, what would be your advice?
就是没有想到会有这样的问题。如果说我其实我觉得一个是没有想到会有这样的问题，而且我其实从来都没想过，我从来都没有想过，然后所以我现在就现场的去思考吧。然后就是半个玩笑吧，但我其实觉得是有道理的。如果我们从饮食上来看的话，中国和尼泊尔的文化是完全没有问题的。对，如果我们一起做事情的话。
So Professor Liu have not imagined that she will be asked such type of questions. But she will return back and have a deep thinking about this question. But what she thinks is that if Nepal and China is going to collaborate production, there won't be more of a problems. It will be very easy.
Sure. Thank you very much, Professor. So we'll wait for that answer and we'll publish it when you tell me, okay? All right. So the same question goes to Professor Dutta here. India-Nepal co-production.
India-Nepal co-production, like previously there were so many films. I don't know whether there is a co-production as yet. But India, I mean, location-wise, they have shot in Nepal so many times. I don't think there are too many differences between the culture. I don't find, not even in terms of food also. So it's all the same. For me, I think that if you have to have a co-production, we can find the similarity, which are aplenty, I suppose. So we can find some universal theme and also which is relevant to both the cultures, and then you can make a film. It's nothing very difficult, I suppose.
Yes and no, because Bollywood and the Indian film
No, I'm not
industry
talking about Bollywood.
is so strong,
not at all.
yeah, that they do
I'm
not
talking
need
about independent art house filmmakers.
Exactly. How do you get about ensuring that? I mean, how do you make that happen in the first place?
Which one?
Independent filmmakers getting together to make a co-production. Because all we know now of India is the big pan-Indian film festival.
No. Independent filmmakers are very open to this kind of collaboration. They are always looking for collaboration. You know, this 3 things happen in terms of co-production. In NFDC film market, he must be knowing the National Film Development Corporation we have in India. They have a film market and they have a screenwriters lab where either independent filmmakers go with their script and they get lot of mentoring, and that is the way the script develop. And then either they have already shot the film and now they don't have money for post-production, then they go for the post-production project. Same happened with Bhushan Film Festival, the Asian Film Fund and everything. So I don't think if somebody, now as we are talking, somebody sitting in India or in Nepal must be thinking some kind of co-production like this. They are always thinking like that, and so they are very flexible.
Sure.
So I am hoping, fingers crossed, that someday Meme will or he will make a film along with India. It's nothing important, difficult. Very, very soon. See?
Cool. True.
He should.
Yeah. But then, as we heard,
I actually
right now.
我稍微补充一点吧，刚刚没有说完，就是我觉得显然就是至少我们喜欢那个怎么讲，就是互相的食物吧。然后这是非常重要的一点，然后我是第一次来尼泊尔，就其实已经感受到了，我觉得是不同的地方，然后也有相同的地方。然后如果真的是要联合制作的话，我觉得可能是在就是因为毕竟有不同的文化，然后和做事情的方式，或者是做事情的规则。对，然后我觉得那个部分其实是一个人和人之间的部分，然后是最重要的，需要去互相了解的事情。对。
So what Professor Liu is trying to say that it is her first time to visit Nepal, and in these few days she have come to find out that the cultural differences between China and Nepal are more and also less. In other words, there are some cultural differences between the two countries and there are some similar points between the two countries. So during the collaboration, what we have to do is that we have to respect each other's culture and let's work in partnership.
对，然后我其实就是虽然只来了几天，但是就我查了一些资料，然后也和周围的朋友聊天，然后已经感受到了有一些其实是很好的题材，很好的题材。对，很好的故事，就是我觉得，尼泊尔是一个非常有故事的地方，然后它可以有非常多的，就是很适合做剧情片或者纪录片的，对这种题材，故事的来源，然后所以其实最好的去感受这件事情的方法，就是我或者我的就是朋友们，就是真的来这儿拍一个片子试试看。
So what she also came to find out is that Nepal is the place of many stories. So these stories of Nepalese people can also be used during the filmmaking and make a lot of Chinese people understand about the Nepalese culture and Nepalese people.
Thank you. Is that all? Wow, that was a short, abbreviated translation. All right, so, okay, Professor Lee is going to make a movie here, and then we'll know. All right, claps for that. Cool, yeah. So it's one thing to say, there's a lot of resources out there, and there are, of course. And so the trend nowadays for young filmmakers, and I'm trying to make this useful for the filmmakers here in the room, is that they will tell you to apply to all these labs. So there's Busan, there's Torino, there's New York, there's so many academies and so many funding forums where you have to apply, Cine Foundation, etc. can. So that seems to be the general trend where young filmmakers then go to these websites, look when the website's open for submissions, and then fill out the forms. And if they're lucky, they get in. And that's where the magic starts to happen. They meet other like-minded people coming from different countries, and that's where the partnerships are formed. Or you have to be so lucky, like Bham, where you meet people at a bar and you drink, and you make such an impression. No, that's also useful that I'm saying. Yeah, I know that's it. The point is when you meet somebody, you make an impression on them that they keep calling you and saying, send me your project, I want to work with you. So these are the pathways to co-production. Can we end here now? So cool. All right. So having said that, say you do all the things that you have to do in order to garner or in order to achieve your goal of getting co-production. Once you have it, And then you start working with people from all different countries, etc. All of which, as Min said, they're all there to help you, of course. But each one has a different perspective on what's good for the film and which audiences, etc., etc. Coming from Nepal, where we're not very aware of all these factors, we need to be able to kind of study that and find out about those things as well, so that you develop a thick skin as well as enough intellect to be able to fend all the questions that come towards you, right, Min? Right? So these guys have had practice, but what advice would that be for a young new filmmaker, Binod? What would you say to them to prepare themselves for that?
Yeah, I think to the young filmmakers who are struggling for film making, for film production, I think the first of all is you have to have very clear idea what do you want to tell, what's your craft. I think you should work on craft first. The secondary is the money. I never, of course, money is important, but for me, I always keep your content, your craft, yourself is very important. And then money comes later. So there are many ways for the money, like Min and Bham has like co-production experiences. That has a different one path that you can find the money. And my path, of course, rich people around, you know. So find the rich people who really understand you, who's got a money, right? So the first of all, it's you have to have a very clear idea and prepare yourself. Don't go blindly and don't, follow your greed. Don't follow your so-called ambition. Oh, I want to be a filmmaker. No. You just want to tell a story. That has to be your passion. And you should love your story. You should love yourself. That's the important thing. And then once you love yourself and then you love your story, your craft, then people will love you, of course. It will have some hurdles, of course. There are some struggles, but that's the process. And you should enjoy that process. I always enjoy my process. To be frank, when I was making a Bhutan, in my pocket, I had just 65 cents when I was in United States. Just had 65 cents in my bank account, you know. That's how I started my journey. And I made $1 million film later on. But it took 3 years to make a movie. So I don't have a time to say my journey, but it was too hard. But I enjoyed it. Finally, we made it. So, yeah, I think, did I answer?
Well, yes, why not? Yeah. And I think you brought up a very, very salient point there. Following the route of co-production and this kind of financing takes time, that's for sure. So it takes time for you to prepare your project, to meet all those requirements, and then it takes time to find money from one source to the other, etc. It takes years. A lot of people here in Nepal don't have patience for that. They want to make their films back to back if possible. And if you're in that mode, you follow Binod's example. Find rich people, much easier, but not easy because you have to have the charisma and you have to have the capability, you have to have the respect from those financiers to believe you. So there's different ways of going about production, but when it comes to co-production, I think there's one question that we must all ask is it the pathway forward for young filmmakers that's going to take them and Nepalese cinema to the whole world? So is that what's recommended? Or do you also recommend, forget about co-production, get some money together, make something that's very passionate coming from within you, and then only take it to the markets later? So what is your advice, and which way would work better? Min?
If you ask me personally, of course I would say this is the only way to go ahead, in my case. But in general, if you are asking me to answer for the young filmmakers, of course, if you are rich enough, and if you really don't care about not having money in your bank account in the future, then of course go for it. I wish I came from the richest millionaire families where I could easily take out money from my bank accounts or my parents' bank account, and then I could easily produce film. So this is not the ultimate way. This is not the best way. Even though, let's say, if I belong, just imagine, but in reality not. Let's imagine if I belongs to the family who has billions of dollars. Still, I would not recommend to use my own money, to my parents' money, just to make films. Because being a professional filmmaker, making a single film is not enough. You have to make again and again. And it's also not about only making films. It's about learning how we collaborate, how we exchange our experience with the international crew members, producers, actors, talents. And also this is how we learn as well. It's not only about money. And also sometimes, let me be very, very frank and to be very realistic. So can you guys just give me a single example where we could do really 5.1 sound mixing in Kathmandu? Of course, I know lots of friends, and I have lots of friends who are doing sound design, of course, only on their laptop, isn't it? So this is the things that we are lacking. And when we are dreaming to have a big, like really good film, internationally, standard-wise, okay, we really want to make great film, of course, it requires so many other technical things. We really even don't have a single Eddie Alexa in the whole country. And we just have 2 or 3 colorists. And sadly, I have to say that. And still they're doing their job. They're doing color grading on their laptop. It's so pity. Of course, I'm not complaining to my colleagues, to the Nepalese talents. But of course, we also don't have studios, no support, that. These are the one thing. And second, of course, film is not about only making. After you finish the shooting, after you finish the post-production, and then what next? Of course, you have to go somewhere. I don't know where it is. Either it should be festivals, market, OTT platform. It should go somewhere. And for that, we really need to have distributor, sales agent, international sales, unless if you just want to make films with your own money and just want to show it to your family members or to your girlfriend or to your closest family members, then it's okay. Nobody is stopping you doing for that. But when you ask me, having this bigger dream to have the whole universe as your own market and all those people from the world having your own audience, then of course we should be smart enough to tap this opportunity to find the collaborations from all over the world. What's wrong with that? Actually, of course, I love to work with the people who have different experience, who have different mindset, who have different knowledge, different experiences. Then I could learn from all those things. So
Nothing
I would say
wrong with
just
that,
go
as
for
you've
it.
shown so far. I think, to summarize what Min said, co-production is not about getting money to make the film. It's what happens after the film is made that's important as well. That's the more producers you have more contacts, more networking, and so your distribution really becomes a completely different game. So just to say, I think Shambhala is showing in 40 countries around the world, right? That was the plan before. So you can have amazing distribution and reach a global audience if you go this route. Sometimes you make a film in Nepal, and the film may be so good that some distributor will want to pick it up. but then you have one single distributor who's looking at your thing. Whereas in this case, you could have a whole network of distributors in different regions, etc. And I've seen huge success in that regard. So that's the thing. Co-production has many benefits beyond just bringing money in for the production. You want to say something?
I really want to add one more thing. Especially when I used to teach in film school, and I have been in contact with those young filmmakers, and who are always worried about these collaborations, co-productions, and as if the thing is the job of the director. It's really not. As being a director, as being a storyteller, we really don't need to be worried about finding money, having these collaborations, if it's good or not, is the responsibility of the producer. Actually, this is the lacking part in our country. Of course, there are some producers, young creative producers, who could take this responsibility, who could take this baggage from the director's shoulders. That's why I have seen all the young filmmakers in Nepal, they're so worried, and whenever I ask them, they're saying like, okay, I'm very anxious about finding money, applying this project here and there. Actually, it's the producer's job. So together, let's produce producers, and then we'll be in safe hands.
I think we have to end this now, and we can open it up to the audience for some questions. Any questions from the audience for our eminent panel here? Here we go.
Then maybe you can give some answers. Oh, okay. During our production of our first film, Mega, when a NRN, a rich NRN from US contacted us because she was very interested because we were using re-recording the music from Global Engine. But then my wife was directing the movie, rejected the offer because her condition was she was ready to put in whatever money we demand, but the condition was that we have to make her son the main lead. So I was, as an executive producer, I was quite interested. I was thinking maybe we can take him and train him and take him to workshop. But my wife, who was directing the film, she rejected it. She thought like, Samdana, classmate of Binod and Min. So what is your comment? If the situation arises, there is a condition that son or daughter needs to be given a main role to accept the money or not. Thank you.
I mean, it depends. See, I mean, I never see anything wrong in it because they are putting their money if they want, if they have a passion, or if he wants to be an actor, or do you think it's a problem? I don't think. It's up to you. If you don't think she can be or he can be an actor in your film, don't accept it. Go through another way, right? So if you think, okay, I can do it for you, and this works for you. If you think if it works, then this is fine. I mean, nothing wrong. I don't think this is wrong, but it's up to you. And Samjana did the right thing because she didn't want it. She didn't want it. That's it. You have to be very clear. Nobody is wrong. Actually, he's got a money. It doesn't mean that he's a wrong person, or he doesn't know any idea, he's not a creative guy. If I'm rich, then do you think I'm not a creative guy? Come on. He can be a creative, right?
So true.
Yeah.
Because I would like you to connect me with that person. I'm willing to take the money and train them to become a good actor. That's possible as well. So I think the answer was right. If the person suited the character, Samjana would have thought about it as well, I think, but maybe she already had an actor who thought was the perfect for the role, and therefore she was very determined not to take him on. And that's a good decision as well. So it depends on the case, yeah? Cool, thank you. Any other questions? No? It seems if there are no questions, it always means that we were so clear in all of the things that we said that we've been very successful. All right, here we go.
Hello. I just wanted to ask about the legal side of it. So obviously it's really nice and rosy that, you know, there are people from around the world wanting to work with you, all great, but when it comes to copyright, when it comes to who owns the right to the film, how do you go on about it? It's great that you've got producers on board like Mindai, who looks into financing, but who looks into the legal side of it, or what would your advice be for an upcoming filmmaker? Thank you.
Thank you. Usually the main producers own the right. Main producer simply means the producer who have been started the project from the very initial phases of the project. And second thing, being a main producer simply means the film where you're gonna shoot. For instance, Samala is owned by the Nepalese production company. Definitely the main producer will be from Nepal. And he or she will hold the rights for the entire world. Of course, then you have to sell the rights for the sales agent for 10 years. And after 10 years, you're gonna get back your rights worldwide. But having all those co-producers, let's say from Turkey, America, France, Norway, then they hold the rights for their own country. For example, my French producer has the rights for the French territory. If she's gonna make some money in the country, then that belongs to her. And legally there will be not any issue at all, because at the end of the day, the main producer will hold the rights. They will just take the revenue, and of course, it's very important to have the copyright. And usually the main producer and the director, they hold the rights. Usually, but of course, this is very crucial part of doing co-production. Sometimes the European producers are very tricky. They're very smart enough to get the rights. And this is the point where your main producer has to fight. And just to have hundreds of thousands of euros, you really don't need to give the copyright. And that's the issue with the young filmmakers. Normally what I have seen, not only in Nepal, I have seen some of the young filmmakers, especially from Hong Kong and Myanmar. And I have also seen one of my good friends, she was from mainland China, and she was working in France. And when she was making her first feature film, of course she was very, very talented, and she was very strong. She studied in Germany, and then she was writing her first script in Cine Foundation residency. And she had a really good track record. And still, she had a problem with the French company who wanted to take the rights. And then one day she came to me and she was asking me, is it the right way? Because I never had the experience of doing collaborations with the European partners. And then I said, look, you are making film in your own country, and then I don't know, later or sooner you might have your producer. That doesn't mean the guy should invest money on your project. Whoever collaborator from your own country or the owner of the production house should get the rights. And then later on, she really tried so hard to fight for it. And of course, European producers are always eager to get the rights, but when you talk to them, they're very easy to get back as well. So legally, there is no issue at all.
Gaumaya, what a question for legal right. Actually, यस्तो हुन्छ क्या in legalities, since I made film in the United States means he knows well, they are so conscious about these legalities. Each and everything you have to have a document. Each and every contract you have to have very clear roadmap. each location, even you are hiring people, you are shooting here, you need everything with a legal advisor. So it is best idea to keep a legal advisor wherever you are making film. So you should have a very basic idea like Min said, but at the same time, it's a best way to hire legal advisor for each country, so that you won't have any problem. Yeah. More money, yes.
And that's
of
what the
course.
money is for. You ask people to give you money so you can hire a legal advisor, a really great accountant, yeah, and a whole host of admin people that keep all the paperwork. And it's true, because if you forget about just co-production, if you want to make a film and you want to sell it to any OTT platform on Netflix, they'll ask you for every documentation for every little person that appeared in the film, contracts, consent, etc. So it's just good international practice, yeah? Cool. I think we have to end soon. What? 10 more minutes? Okay. So if we have 10 more minutes, we'll go with final last words and advice from our panelists here, and I'll conclude it, okay? So, Dr. Rita, would you like to go? If you have any questions, please, but if not, this is what we'll do.
So my advice will be to the young filmmakers all over the world that you should try simultaneously. You know, as he said, that co-production, it worked for him, but sometimes it doesn't. And some people do not have that kind of patience. These days, the young filmmakers do not have the patience at all. And some co-production, as I know, that it can be very strenuous sometimes and very lengthy. Sometimes they give up in between. So as Kurosawa says that you should have 7 scripts in your hand when you approach the financiers. So I think that you should, adopt Mim's way and Binod's way simultaneously. I mean, you should have money to put across your film, your idea. Otherwise, what is the point? This will be my advice. Try in every way if possible. And if you want to go for the co-production, have patience. That is the main thing you need. Thank you.
Okay. 我其实刚刚听了很多，然后我觉得在这个部分其实可能没有太多的就是国家的差异或者是文化的差异。
So what Professor Liu is trying to say is that after hearing some words from our leaders, what she personally believes that at this time there is no much more of difference between China and Nepal.
可能从我的经验，从我自己的经验，然后和看待事情的角度来说，就是一个年轻的电影人在相对来说比较艰难的时候，开始他的第一次创作。我觉得客观的因素，比如说钱，比如说其他的，我觉得这些都不是最重要的。最重要的永远是你是不是专注于自己的创作。
So talking about her one experience, what she personally believes that when young people start producing a film, the physical aspects such as money matters a lot.
因为其他的客观的因素，就是在我自己看来，我觉得它还是比较像一种借口。借口。
So money can also be an excuse for a young generation for making the film.
对，因为这么说可能比较直接，比较不好听。但是如果你想一想其中的道理的话，我觉得你就会明白。因为电影它对一个人的要求，尤其对一个导演的要求，是一种，它相对来说是一个综合能力，它不是一个单一的能力。
So about film production, what she personally believes is that the requirement of a director is also very much of importance. So what she is trying to say is that what she is telling now must be very bad during listening.
就是，如果你非常非常相信自己是有才华的，你相信自己的创作，然后你仅仅是没有解决经费的问题，你没有解决钱的问题，但通常这样的人他会认识可以帮他解决这个问题的朋友。
So at the beginning, a lot of young people may encounter many types of problems, but with the encounter of the problem, what he or she also encounters is the friend who can help him to solve the problem.
You have talent, you don't have money, but you have a friend. You have friends. So that is how you make a movie at first. Or maybe you have talent, you have no money, you have no friend, but you can also do that. There are many ways, especially for indie filmmakers. And I will turn back to Chinese. Okay. Sorry.
Wesley, you're doing fine in English. Come on. Continue in English.
I can say that because 20 years ago, or maybe 21 years ago, I made my first fiction film. And I was so poor. My family was poor. Now I'm not. But at that time, yeah, because we are in debt. So it was really very, very hard for us, and totally has no money. But I still made my first fiction movie. I write TV series script. I was a student in Beijing Film Academy at that time, and I wrote a TV series script and saved some money and bought a Sony PD-150. Anybody remember that? Okay, it's a DV time. Okay, and I made my first movie. Did not spend much money because I made a movie at home with my parent. So 3 actors, my parent, and myself. Yeah, so it's a homemade indie film, and I went to Berlin, the forum, and I was now I'm 44, yeah, and that is something happened when I was 24, yeah.
We want to see that film.
Thank you. So that is a true story. So I always do not think money is the biggest thing. You trust in yourself, and you can find your way. Maybe you have friend. Now I have friend, but I had no friend at that time. Yeah, so 我只是想说，你永远可以找到一个方法去做电影。Yeah.
So at last, what Professor Liu said is that we will always find a way to make a film or to produce a film, no matter how much the circumstances are.
对，而且现在有很多的基金 ，there's so many funds, and you can apply. Yeah, 然后就是作为你的剧本的经费或者是启动的资金，然后你也可以找父母借钱，找朋友借钱，然后自己打工攒钱，就是所以无论如何，你不能拿没有钱这件事情来当做其实你不够有能力的借口。
So having no fun can never be an excuse towards not making a film. At today's society, we can find different ways, such as earning oneself or borrowing money from some friends, and other ways to raise the fund.
Thank you so much, Professor. That's on a very encouraging note for young and budding new filmmakers, honestly. And it's so true. That's the only way you make films. Either you make it with passion, beg, borrow, steal, somehow. The other way is to be more structured, and you should learn that craft. And in Cambodia, we actually have a small unit, and I think that's what's needed in this country is to have a co-production facilitation unit, like those visa application places, where young people who want to apply for these co-production grants. Yeah. Can I just finish this? I'll actually facilitate in some form. Dr.
Yeah, I just want to tell another thing to young filmmakers here present, that one of my friend, he made one beautiful feature film with his Apple iPhone, okay? He had no money. But it was tremendous. I mean, the film is, if I could have shown you, it is a brilliant film. But at the end of it, as because he didn't have any producer like Meme did, nobody, I mean, it never got that kind of exposure in film festivals, you know. But for us, we know that it's a very, there, and the role of programmer begins. You know, the film festival programmer, some are really fake, like everything is fake these days. But you really have to find out good programmers. If you don't have the co-production, if you are not lucky and fortunate enough, you should also find good film festival programmer. He or she can take you places if your film is very good. This is another advice.
Thank you. You know, any famous last words in China? China? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, both of you. Yeah. Actually, nowadays many people think that I only make films with the big budget. No. Actually, I started making my first film with $600, and that was the first short film that I made. And of course, I didn't have that amount of money. I borrowed from my friends, my colleagues, and we were just 5 people. We went to the mountain and we made that film. It was in 2012. And later on, I also have this experience of producing some short films with very, very low budget and having just 5 to 6 crew members. And some of the short films I want to mention, one of the short films called Zalgiri, it was in 2018, and we made that short film with 2 lakhs. At the time, that means $1,400, and that short film won the Grand Prix in Berlin. And there are so many other projects. Recently, I have produced one feature film in Hong Kong, and the total budget was just $8,000. And we shot in the Philippines and Hong Kong. And Hong Kong is, of course, more expensive than in Nepal. But the director really wanted to tell the story within that particular time frame. So that is the only way to make films. It really doesn't necessarily require money all the time. Of course, if your project is about science fictions and having all those big stars, you want to create a big set for your film, then of course it requires. But mostly for the young filmmakers, especially when it is time to make your first feature film or any short film, just go for it. If you have brilliant idea, then your friends will definitely support you. And that is the only way to make films. And nowadays, all those big filmmakers, big names, like Martin Scorsese, and all those great filmmakers, there was a time when they had to make their first film with a very, very minimal amount of money and taking support from their friends. And that is how it works. There are many great filmmakers in the world, trust me, who made their first feature film with the amount of $30,000, $40,000. And in the context of their country, in the US, that's very, very minimal amount of money, like 5 lakhs in Nepal. So we can do it. So if you have guts to make a film, and if you have a passion, just go for it. And this is the only excuse for young filmmakers, oh, I want to make film and I don't have money. That is the biggest speed breaker for the laziest filmmakers. Thank you so much.
All right. Everything has different ways of looking at it and facets. When you hear these stalwarts here who are already famous tell you, money is not important. Yeah, it is. You need enough money to make your film the way you want to. But what they're saying is, of course, Don't have overtly ambitious films as your starting films because you're still learning. Do something small, do it well, so it's recognized for its quality. Yeah, that's the simple advice. Two is there are so many opportunities out there. Be smart, be aware of them. In today's time, come on. Find out about these things, apply to them. And if you need help to polish your application, then there are people like these guys who are willing to help you also. But they'll only help you if they think you've done your homework, you've done your part of the work well, right? You can't just go to Mindai and say, oh, Mindai, please help me, blah, blah, blah. Everything is assessed for exactly the type of work that you put in there, the quality of your ideas, and the scope of the creation that you've created. The third thing I want to say is, if you're looking for co-production, you have to think global again. Don't think of small stories that are happening only within the country. Those work as well, not to say that you always have to. But now maybe the time has come where you're writing stories that are cross-country, or they're happening somewhere else. It's Nepali stories, it's about Nepal in many ways, but it could have the potential to have a co-production with some other country or whatever, which expands the distribution of your film as well. So I think the takeaway for today would be many opportunities, but you have to work hard to catch them and garner them. Two, stick to what you think is your prime core, the stories that come from your heart, your passion. And when it comes to when you have to fight with your producers, you can still win if you are very clear and very strong about it. Don't adjust your stories to suit everybody else. You have to keep the integrity of your work. So Srishti the other day sent me this quote on Instagram which said, a work of art will always divide people, and if it doesn't, then that means you didn't work hard enough. So I think do not be afraid to put your very, very core ideas out there without worrying about whether it will be a commercial success or not. And so as we know, as we established right at the beginning, this kind of thing, Dr. Rwita said, works only in the independent film industry. If you're in the commercial film industry, there's a whole new mechanism, I mean, you all know it, of how to get your money and how to get it back. So for the indie world, where I find is where the more honest and truthful filmmaking is happening. So this is the way forward. One of the ways forward is co-production. I think what we should do, everybody who's involved should think about these things, that if you can set up a facilitation center somewhere where you can actually have some discussions and some interaction between these filmmakers would help, because being alone and lonely is not a very good thing. And finally, you have people like these guys now that you all know to reach out to from a global scale, and please be bold enough to do that as well, right? I thank all the panelists here today for your time. It was very, very wonderful. Thank you for having me here. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Deependra Dai. All the panelists, all the participants. We have a little bit gift, yeah, token of love to the panelists and the moderator for participation on this International Film Festival on behalf of organizing team. I'd like to call Mr. K.P. Pathak on the stage. Dr. Rita Dutta. Dr. Rita Dutta, please accept our token of love. Professor Dr. Jiayin. Mr. Bham, Director, Producer. Mr. Binod Paudel, Film Director, Writer. And Deependra Gauchan, filmmaker and moderator.